Good morning, good morning, good morning, kindergarten. This is for Group 1. Group 1, keep turning your math books to page 95. Now, as you look on page 95, let's look at number 1. Number 1 simply asks us to add. So, all for number 1, take your time, you're going to add those problems. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 wants us to write the number. Notice you have a few number words there. I wrote 2 on the board for example. You're going to start off with this word. This word, what do you think this word says? 10. And the correct way to write 10, write the number 1 first, and then you write the 0. Let's move on to the next one. What word is this? 7. 7. Then again, it does say 7, but is this the correct way to write 7? No, that's not the right way. Let me fix that. Notice for 7, it is pointed that way. That's the correct direction for number 7. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 simply asks us, what time is it? Now let's look at the clock. Now the hour hand, what number is that pointed to, the hour hand? What number is that? That is the 8. So we write the 8 first. Now, the minute hand is pointed at 6. So remember, for the minute hand, you start at the number 1. You're counting by 5s. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So the time is 8:30. Let's work on another one. Alright, now let's look at the clock this time. Notice, the hour hand is pointed towards what number? It's the 12. 12 goes there. And then remember, the 6, remember you start at the 1 for the minute hand. Since it's pointed at the 6, let's count. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So the time for that particular clock is 12:30. As we move on down to number 4, number 4 wants us to write the number that comes before. So for that one, I wrote a few examples on the board. Let's start over here at number 7. What number comes before number 7? What number? 6. Great job. 6 comes before 7. Let's look at 5. What number comes before the number 5? What number? 4. And lastly, 11. What number comes before 11? 10. So that's how you solve number 4. Now, as we flip the page over to 96, let's look at number 1. Remember, number 1 is adding. Take your time with that. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 says circle the correct number. So notice, they will give you a number that you have to see, and then you have to circle the correct item for that number, or circle the correct amount for that number. This says 7. So how many stars are we circling? 7. I circle 7 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's work on one more. So that's what we have here. It tells us 2. So I'm circling only 2 items. Only 2 squares. So 1, 2. So that's how you solve number 2. Let's move on to number 3. So as we look at number 3, it wants us to fill in a bubble under the shapes that are divided into halves. That means if it's split in half, I mean if you put a line in between or a line, it is the same on each side. It is the same on each side. Let's start on this side. Does this look like it's divided into equal halves? No, so we're not bubbling that in. Let's look at this triangle. It's the same, so you bubble that in. And then lastly, the circle, that is the same as well, so you will bubble that in. Remember, if it's divided into half, it's the same part on each side. Let's look back at this rectangle again. Notice there's a line, however, it's not the same amount. But it is the same for this triangle and that circle. And lastly, number 4, you are writing the number, very similar to a problem that we did before in the past. Let's look at the number here. It tells us 2. So we have to write the number 2. That's how you write the number 2. Now this one, says 6. So you're writing the number 6. That's the correct way to write 2, facing the right direction. And this is the correct way to write number 6. It's facing the correct direction. So as you look at the other few problems they give you, number 4, you simply write the number.